Hello and welcome to MIT Integrated Design and Management Info Session. My name is Matt Cressy and I am the founder and director of IDM, and I'm here today to give you a presentation on what IDM is all about, why IDM is in existence, and I'll be joined also with some students a little later, and they will also give you their kind of views about IDM and what it means to them, and then we'll have an opportunity for you to ask all four of us questions. With that, I'll begin with the presentation. So I like to show this first slide. Also, let me just start by saying this presentation is going to be about the same as every other archived presentation since IDM has existed. So don't go looking at those other presentations thinking you're going to see something different or new. That's not the intent. We're not creating a mini-series. We're just trying to really hit at the main points of what IDM is all about, and if it matches with what you have in mind. Okay, so these are some examples of just really great products. And what's important about them is that, they're really great examples of successful products and companies that have something in common. And that is they have this beautiful user experience, a profitable business model, and exciting technologies. So those are three very important things of successful products: great user experience, profitable business, good, solid technologies. How do you achieve that? Well, that's really done by integrating three very important disciplines: design for that user experience, business for that profit, and engineering for that feasibility. So we like to represent that as this Venn diagram. And so there you have design in the upper left, and underneath it is the word desirability. Design is responsible for making products desirable to consumers, to markets, among other things. And desirability, can mean aesthetics. It could also mean usability. It could mean ergonomics. It could mean all kinds of different things. Business in the upper right-hand portion of the Venn, the upper right-hand circle, obviously is responsible for viability. So that can be, raising funds, creating a business entity, distributing shares, figuring out supply chains, figuring out distribution models, managing inventory, managing cash flow, all of that. Very, very necessary elements of running a business. And then engineering at the bottom there is all about creating products that are robust, reliable, safe, come in at cost when you manufacture them so you can sell them at a price that's reasonable for the consumer, and also making them repeatable so that you can mass produce a design that is robust and at cost. And where they all intersect is where that heart is, and that heart is IDM. We're not a design school, we're not a business school, we're not an engineering school. We're really about a school that puts all of those disciplines together to create people who can orchestrate kind of beautiful enterprises. It's almost like if all these people in business were musicians. We're sort of a school dedicated to creating composers and conductors. And to be a composer or conductor, you really need to understand all the various instruments, how they can be used, the roles that they play, the value they bring to a piece, to a composition, to a melody, so that you can create beautiful things. We hope to create people like this, people who do that. So, I won't name names, they're pretty obvious there, but, they've done or doing great things in the world, and they really are integrators of these three disciplines and leaders that create enterprises that are founded on that. So we want to create people with vision, people with passion, people with love, and skills so that they can actually implement their visions. Here at IDM, I'm here in the ID lab. This is our new space this year. And in the background, you can see some of the students working on their workshop projects right now. It's a studio-based environment that's immersive. There's a lot of hands-on work here. There's a lot of design reviews and discussions and critical thinking that goes on. And we'll be discussing, things like how to make that box square, if you're making a little plastic box as an exercise. Or we might be talking about how to make that business model more accurate as it addresses risk or uncertainty. Or we may be talking about, how to make a mechanism work correctly, so that, looking at the kinematics or the materials or other properties like that. So that's sort of this immersive environment. We have this design innovation culture. We practice and teach the design process, namely the human-centered design process, but we also teach design-driven product development processes and others. We think this is a very inspiring environment, and we also have a really nice culture, and that is both a function of this environment, but also the people in this environment. So we've worked very hard over time to make sure that the people that are part of IDM all are very supportive, inclusive, diverse, loving, and kind of share a belief that we can do good things for the world as well as make a profit at the same time. That's a picture of our old space. I should have updated that slide, but no need. You can see it behind me. Okay, here's the slides about our students. It's a 2-year program, so we have 2 cohorts. We have one cohort has 22 students in it, and the first year's, the most recent cohort, has 26. That's a total of 48 students, so that first bullet point is a little off. Average years of work experience are 5. We like all our students to have some experience in the real world. That way what we teach will actually resonate with them, because we tend to teach methodologies that only make sense if you have suffered in the real world in some way, working with people and trying to be persuasive and trying to move something in a direction where you may be getting resistance. The average age is 28. The student body is 63% female and 60% international. We have 14 countries represented. Actually, that may have gone up. And there's some examples of some of the countries. So United States, India, Philippines, Hong Kong, China, Mexico, Iran, Canada, Kenya, France, Honduras, Pakistan, United Kingdom, Thailand, Spain. Did I miss any? All right. Okay, this is an outline of our curriculum and sort of the experience that the students will undergo when they're in the program. The first year is really focused around what we call ID Lab, or the core curriculum. So if you look in that blue square, you can see there's a core curriculum. In addition to core curriculum, while you're here, you're going to have to take 2 required management electives and 2 required engineering electives. And we have a fairly long list of courses here at MIT that qualify as required electives. And so you'll need to take, there's 4 of those. We kind of suggest you take 1 per semester. If you're here for 2 years, you're here for 4 semesters, so that's 1 per semester. The first year, you'll take your core in the fall and the spring, and then the second year, you'll have a lot more free time. You'll have to also do a thesis that will be spread across that second year as well. There is, if you can see it along the bottom, it is possible to do IDM in 1 year, or actually more like 13 months. We don't recommend that. We have found that the students that do that really feel that it's too quick. They'd like to be in MIT longer, and they can experience the ecosystem. They can be with their cohort longer and build networks and take advantage of this amazing place. Going back to the the 2-year option, that second year we also call your incubator year, where you could actually develop a business or a product while you're here at MIT, and then hopefully kind of launch it when you graduate. All right, so those are the 2 options. I think I went over this. So ID Lab, that core curriculum, that's 36 units. It's sort of a design school studio experience plus integration and leadership. During ID Lab, you will have X hour, you will have, which is like a seminar, you will have a lecture, which is more like a lecture you'd get around MIT. It could be on business, engineering, or it could be on design. It could be on leadership, sustainability. And so all of those things sort of add up to ID Lab. Oh, and then there's workshop. And workshop is where we teach you how to use a specific tool. So that could be a CNC, or it could be, a CNC router, or it could be, a bandsaw. But we want to enable you to build things, to experiment, to make prototypes, but more importantly, to appreciate what it takes to make those things happen. Because when you leave IDM as a graduate, you probably won't be doing those things, but what you will be doing is managing people who do and providing direction. And if you don't understand the challenges that they face at a fairly intimate level, you will not be a very credible leader. So we want to make sure that is a part of your repertoire. I mentioned the electives. You'll be doing 27 management electives and 27 engineering electives, units rather, and then your thesis of 24 units. I kind of touched upon this. This is the daily schedule in ID Lab. X hour from 11:30 to 12:30. Then we have lunch. Then there's lecture from 1 to 2:30. And then there's a big block of time that's studio time, where you work on your project, and faculty, TAs, and mentors come to you and basically do like a design review, kind of get updated on your project, mentor you in your work. And then at the end of the day is workshop, where we teach very specific kind of making skills. Okay, then there is this little diagram. It sort of says, in ID Lab, these activities take place. It acts as a team headquarters. It acts as a makerspace. It acts as a design, a place for the design workshops. It's a place where we have our guest lectures, where we teach user-centered design and user-centered research, and where our faculty come and give lectures. So it's a very active, dynamic place, and full of energy. It's very exciting. There are 3 projects in ID Lab. So the first project, actually I'll get into those in a minute, but so 3 projects. They focus on going very deep on user needs. That's a very current theme, common deep theme. We want people to be very, very connected with their markets and their users, so that they build solutions to the real problems that exist with their markets and consumers. They also deal with manufacturing and sales in a very deep way, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And also practicing the product development process and and also how to deal with contract manufacturing. So those are sort of 3 separate kind of things that are emphasized in the three projects. Some of the projects are student generated. Some of them are industry sponsored. In the spring, we could have a sponsor come in and they could say, hey, we'd like you to look at mobility in India and a team could form and work with that sponsor to kind of address that problem and develop some solutions. The solutions could be products. They could be tangible, hardware. They could be services. So it could be, a user interface or an app. It could be a social solution or an economic solution or a financial instrument. Or it could be a social program, or something of that nature. So the point of this is to say that we don't really have any kind of preference as to what your solution is. It could come in any form. The process that we teach really supports creating solutions to complicated problems. It doesn't mean that it has to be hardware or physical product. It can be anything. So if you're thinking about an app or you're thinking about social change, or maybe if you're designing policy, we'd be very supportive of products of that nature. When we do a sponsored project, we tend to have a very intimate relationship with that sponsor, and it's ongoing. And any IP that comes out of that project belongs to the students. And if the sponsor wants to take that IP to market, they have right of first offer at the end of the project, and a negotiation takes place at that point in time. All right, so I'll just talk about the projects in a little more detail. So the first project is really about a deep connection with user needs and desires and emotions and developing empathy. So this is a slide of Susie. She is the third to the right in that picture. And Susie did a project looking at some needs of homeless people, and she went out on the streets of Boston and she spent a lot of time with them, and she got to know them, and she became friends with them, and as a result developed empathy and was able to come back to the class and present to us in a way that was very compelling and transferred her empathy and insights to us. And that's very important when you're trying to build consensus in an organization. It's very important when you're trying to get people to work in the same direction together to solve one problem. And so that she did that very well, and I just love this example because it's not exactly a comfortable topic to go and get immersed in, but that's what it takes. If you're going to do great things in this world, you're going to have to kind of go outside your comfort zone and connect with other people and really understand problems. Another shot from what she experienced. And these are kind of slides from her presentation. All right, the second project is about manufacturing and sales. It's also about design. But when you design a product, you eventually have to make lots of them and you have to sell them. So they have to be desirable and they have to be repeatable. So this second project is a team that made a very unique planter for plants that had a special window in it that would tell you how moist the soil is. And on that first project, by the way, going back to that first project with Susie, that's an individual project. So project one is individual. Project two is a team project. And so here we have a designer, a business person, and an engineer working together in a team to make this planter. They manufactured 50 of these. And at the end of this project, they sold all 50 at a big event that IDM hosts over at Sloan School called the Sales Gala. And that's a lot of fun. So here's a shot of one team that made a trivet that folds up. It's made out of felt and black walnut. It was absolutely gorgeous. And they created packaging, and they have to create some sort of way of taking payments. So in this case, it's using Square. And at the end of the night, they sold all 50 of their units. The other thing that results from this is that as you're building the product, you start getting interest from people walking by, and now you start forecasting. So some teams, I think, like this one, made more than 50. They made 60, 70. Some teams made 80 units and sold them all. Here's sort of a group photo of who was left at this point in the evening. Okay, so that's sort of the sales gala. Project 3 is really based around it's a 14-week project, and it's putting everything together from Project 1 and Project 2 to create, basically at the end of the semester, an alpha prototype, as well as a presentation that demonstrates a very solid business model, a market need, a really nice set of user needs, and hopefully the audience walks away from that saying, oh my God, this is a great business opportunity. I want to invest money in that. Now, very few teams actually build a business around it, but that's sort of where we want you to take it. We want you to really be kind of pitching this as if this is a great product opportunity, and it's also a beautiful prototype and solution to the needs of the users in the market. I love this slide. This is Brian Matt, who is the founder of Altitude, which is a product development firm here in Boston. And Brian has really been passionate about what we do at IDM. When I told him what I was creating before IDM existed, he was like, this is what the world needs. There's no program like this, and finally, you're doing it right. And so he just got on board with Altitude 100% and has been incredibly supportive of IDM, and he comes in and gives lectures. He recently sold his company to Accenture, and is now running Altitude with Accenture, doing great things. One of the most special moments at IDM is our graduation ceremony, and we will charter a boat that's quite beautiful, and we have this beautiful ceremony where we celebrate not only the achievements of the students while they're at IDM, but also their future and the potential for amazing change that they're going to bring to the world. Thoughtful, sustainable, profitable, socially responsible change. And we're only 4 years old, and so it's hard to kind of predict what that change will be, and it's hard to see what that is right now. But it's one of the things I look forward to the most. 10 years from now, what will be happening because of this program? And it's really the reason that I'm here every day, is for that 10-year kind of result, and hopefully it's big. With that, I must say our alumni in very few years have done remarkable things already, and have gone to great businesses and have started great businesses. So very, very proud of what they've achieved already. There's another group photo of, I think, 2 years ago, and just a very special time. Okay, so, this slide is a little out of date too. So for admissions, a few things are unique about our program. So all applicants are required to submit a portfolio of their work. And so if you're a business applicant, or you're going to be in the business, you have a business background, we want you to tell your story through a portfolio. And that, we'll talk about that a little more. For designers, it's pretty obvious. I think for engineers, it's a little bit easier than for business folks, but it's still unique. But we really want to see how you tell a story visually in your application. Finalists will be required to attend an in-person interview. That's very, very important. If you can't be here, we'll do some sort of video interview. So that could be Skype or Zoom or something like that. And then this year, our admissions deadline is February 1st. There's one deadline, and it's February 1st, so ignore that date on this slide, okay? All right, and this is our second-year cohort, and our mission to enable the learning and development of extraordinary, innovative leaders that will bring new levels of creativity, vision, and integrity to business and society. And I feel very strongly that if we deliver on that mission, there will be great change in this world. Okay. If you need to contact us, here are some email addresses. And at this point, I'd like to invite our student panelists to join us. Oh, I need to turn this on. Come on up, you guys. Just have a seat. Great.
Where are you sitting at?
I'll sit here. You guys sit there. Great. Awesome. Is this on? Okay, we're good to go. Great. All right, so why don't you each introduce yourselves, okay, and just briefly, and then we'll start taking questions. Is that right? Okay, how are we doing on time? Okay, great. So Nidhi, we'll start with you.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining in. I'm Nidhi Sharma, I'm from India, and I'm a second-year student at IDM.
I'm Jill. I'm from the Philippines. I'm from the business cohort and a second-year student at IDM.
Hi, I'm Chris Lloyd. I also applied as a business student. I am a first-year IDM student. Recently moved here from the Bay Area.
Great. Thank you, guys. Thanks for coming. We have a very rainy day here today, if you can't see in the background, so they had to trudge through the rain to get here. All right, great. So actually, why don't we I'd like to hear just a little more about you guys. So Nidhi, why don't you talk about how you found IDM and maybe why you're here?
Sure. So first of all, I had no intention of coming back to school before I got to know about IDM. I come from an engineering background, and I was running in around 2000, so starting from 2014 when I, finished my undergrad in electronics engineering in India. I was already running my company. I had a day job at a semiconductor company doing high-tech work, and of course, any conventional curriculum or program never interested me. I was like quite different from the others, sometimes in a good way, sometimes in bad. So I was learning on my own. I would, look up edX courses and try to just pick up skills that I wanted on the go. I was that kind of the person. I got to know about IDM from a friend who had a friend coming in the first cohort here, and she was Honey, by the way, and she said absolutely beautiful and amazing things about IDM, which I had never heard about any other course. So I looked up the website. It seemed to be doing wonderful work, just like I would want to be doing. And it felt that IDM could be a program that would accelerate me in the direction of my dreams. What else? I mean, I just found an opportunity to visit Cambridge. I dropped an email to Melissa. She was, gracious enough to allow me to meet her, got to know about the program, fell in love with it, and wanted to come back to school. So that's my story. I applied, and in fact, IDM was the only program that I was interested in. That was the only program I applied for, and I got in. Thank you. And I'm having some great time here in the last 1 year or something. I have. So the intention of being here was to fill my skill gap and to meet some great minds on this planet. And I think it has really accelerated me in the direction of what I wanted and has helped me discover things that I actually wanted but did not know that I wanted.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Nidhi.
I got the IDM because I was actually looking at another school, and I was trying to figure out how to apply and prepare the portfolio, and then I stumbled on the IDM's program because I was trying to look at other model programs and clearer instructions. I watched the video and I kind of fell in love with the whole heart thing within the program, and just felt like it was a very, very sincere approach to combining these three disciplines together. I applied to IDM because I wanted to get into sustainable packaging initially. I worked for 6 years in Beijing in sales and recruitment, and then I came home to Manila to work with my family businesses. Unfortunately, being in Beijing, we really valued the environment because the air wasn't very good there, and it was a huge concern. So I come home to Manila, help with a family business, and we realized that there's not much sustainable options, especially within the Asia region, only because everything is so expensive. And so it was very frustrating for me as a business person because I had no capacity. I didn't know how to create these things or source these things or even design them in the first place. And so I felt like there was a huge gap there. And my time in IDM right now has been focused on developing all three aspects from business design and engineering. And nobody's ever said that I could not make anything. In fact, everybody pushes me further in the direction I'm not super comfortable in. And I've grown a lot since then.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe.
I used to work in the nonprofit sector, and a few years ago, I joined a technology firm called ThoughtWorks to run their social impact program. So it was the first time that I was exposed to teams that were engineers, designers, business people creating software products. So I became very interested in product management, software product management specifically. And I think one day I literally just searched design, business, technology on the web and found this program. Shortly after that, I actually got really inspired by what I read on the website. I visited a class about a year ago and decided that I was really in love with this program. So very glad to be here.
Thank you, guys. I'm glad you found us because we love you. Great. So we have some questions that are coming in. And why don't we try to answer them? And I'm going to have you answer them as much as possible. Okay, so the first question. Are there organizations you partner with for the internship, or do students have to find their own?
Give this to the second years.
One of the major learnings at IDM is that it empowers you to find your own path. And that is philosophically true for everything in life. And one of those things is internships or jobs. So I think they give you the skills to, first recognize what kind of job or rather work you would want to engage yourselves in at the prime of your life. And then there are so many opportunities around. I mean, this is Cambridge. And I think this is Disneyland for me. You can run into people who are doing amazing stuff. Sometimes, the who's who of the world, they're just, you'll bump into them in a coffee shop. So there are a bunch of opportunities there. And after all, this is MIT. So people are always, recruiters are always on the lookout for, hiring people. And then because you are at IDM, you already have a very specific and a very distinct skill set across these three domains that Matt mentioned. And chances are that, people out in, the recruiting world, they value these skills a lot.
Do you guys want to add to that at all?
I think that everybody comes with such different personalities and backgrounds and goals as well that it's kind of hard for the program to put together, you go into this internship or you deserve to you should go into this bucket. And so that's why for our class, at least, everybody's gone out and found their own internships. So people have gone all over the world. For me, I was in London with another classmate at a design firm. Other people were working at Apple, Tesla. So it really depends on how you want to carve your path.
Yeah.
I've only been here for 3 weeks, but I've already been exposed to people that I would be interested in approaching for internships. And then also at MIT, there's a lot more infrastructure that can support that, like the MISTI program if you are interested in traveling the world and doing a program through MIT.
Great, thanks. Okay, we'll go on to the next question. Do your applicants have to be from a specific academic background? Do you only want students from engineering, design, or business backgrounds? All right, that's a pretty good question. So we tend to balance the cohort with the idea that we have these three kind of buckets that we're trying to fill. And we try to make, a third of the cohort have design backgrounds, a third of them have engineering or technical backgrounds, and then another third have business or entrepreneurial backgrounds. Within each of those buckets, there is a vast array of disciplines that would fall into those buckets. So for example, in engineering, yeah, you could be a mechanical engineer, an electrical engineer, but if you're a biologist, we kind of see that as kind of part of engineering too, or you're a scientist, or you or a material scientist. So we try to really kind of be lucid and versatile in terms of how we fill these buckets. Design bucket, that could be someone who does strategy or UI, UX. It could be someone who does industrial design, obviously, or graphic design. It could be architecture. But it could also be a painter, or it could be, someone, textiles, or film video. So we really try not to be too strict about that. It's really about the cultures of those three buckets that we want coming together in IDM. That's really what it's about. It's about the design community has a culture, the engineering community has a culture, and the business community has a culture. And those cultures, when they mix, create great things. The skills we kind of teach, so I'm not so worried about that. I hope that answers that question. Okay, let's see what we have for the next question. How many years of experience do we require from an applicant? Does it have to be from a specific area with any field? Any field, and probably 3 years minimum. We really like, and it doesn't matter. Again, what I was saying earlier, what we really want is people to go out into the world and try to do something and realize how hard it is to do something innovative. It's really hard. Why is that? Well, there are problems in kind of being persuasive or understanding a problem and creating solutions and building consensus and building teams and providing leadership. Those are the problems that we kind of grapple with at IDM. So we want people to be thirsty for that solution. Not that we have the complete solution, but we help. Okay, I'm sorry, these are mostly just technical questions, so I'm answering them. So is it a prerequisite to have a bachelor's degree? No, I would say no. Although we've never had anyone without a bachelor's degree, but if you didn't have a bachelor's degree, I would consider you. I got people raising their eyebrows. I'll fight that battle later, but I do believe, and we have faculty here that don't have a bachelor's degree. So if we don't admit students without a bachelor's degree, that's kind of hypocritical. So I'm saying yes to that. Let's hope no grown-ups are watching this today. Can students choose their own topics on problems to solve using the design thinking process? What do you look for in an applicant? So those are really two separate questions. So I'll go for the first one. Can students choose their own topics on problems to solve using the design thinking process? Yes and no. The first topic, not so much, but a little bit. Second one, kind of. Third one, yes. The third one, so that spring project, the one that you're going to be doing in about, 4 months, and you guys have been through this already, you will be able to kind of pick your own topic, assuming that other people vote to work on that with you. I'm answering all these questions. These are...
But I think...
yeah, please.
For the first assignment right now, we're doing design research, and though there are some constraints around the assignment, we get to pick our own population of people that we want to do research with. So, for example, I've been able to pick an area around fitness, and that's something that I was really interested in exploring more, and I'm talking to a specific group that I was passionate about learning more from.
And I think for the second topic, like kitchen, I think it was confined to that. But there's so many things that you can do within the kitchen space as well. We were creating kitchen products, and we had to make 50 of them and sell them over Christmas. And other people made lamps. We made a sauce dish out of wood. And people just got quite creative, even if you were given a certain theme. So it depends on what you make of it and what you want to learn as well that you can use within the process.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. I mean, we will provide like a category, right? And then you guys pick something within the category. So that's why I said kind of. But that's a much more articulate answer than what I said. Okay. Is it possible to do a double degree between IDM and an MBA? We call that a dual degree, and the answer to that is yes. We have several students doing that now. So to do so, you would have to be admitted to both Sloan School through their admissions process, and you'd also have to be admitted to IDM through our admissions process. But if you are admitted to both, you can combine the two, and you can do both in 3 years. And we have a well-defined pathway for that. Okay, here's one for you guys, I think. Talk about the benefits of IDM over an MBA and the difference between an MBA and the Master's in Engineering and Management.
The difference between...
And I think by Master's, I think they're talking about an IDM degree, Master's in Engineering and Management.
The difference is for MBA programs, I think for the first year, you have to go through a core set of subjects. And so it's very basic, from finance to marketing to operations strategy and all that. And then the second year, then you get to choose electives and all. But mainly it's focused around business, and you get very few chances, maybe just a few, to go out of the business school itself. In IDM, business is seen as a lot of big chunk of the electives. So you get to choose exactly what you want to learn in business. For example, you come in and you want to learn more about finance, and you can choose some certain finance subjects, but you don't have to go through the entire suite. So it depends again on why you're coming to the program and what you really want to learn. You can really tailor it to what you want to improve on. But if you want, say, to go through the entire business education because you don't have the background and you want to come out as an having a bigger view of the bigger picture in business, then maybe the MBA might be better for you.
I was actually choosing between business school and this program. So when it came down to my selection process personally, I decided to choose IDM because I felt like I would get enough of the MBA business curriculum, but have more flexibility to focus it in areas that I'm actually passionate about. So the combination of that, and then actually being able to build and design things, which I think you get fewer chances to do in a business school program. Did you?
Nidhi, do you have any thoughts on this? Because you might have a unique perspective.
Yeah, so I think there is a stark difference in the philosophy of these two courses. For an MBA, typically the intention of the course is, you specialize in either banking, finance, marketing, etc., and you fill that, particular position. However, for a course like IDM, as Matt already mentioned, it gives you skills across these 3 domains. And what is actually missing in many of the companies these days is there is not a single person, or a single set of people who understand all these 3 disciplines: business, design, how are things. I mean, basically, design for me is a way of thinking. So that and engineering. And it's very important that all these 3 types of people, or these 3 teams, they speak to each other and interact with each other all through the design process or the development process of a product. And I think, as Matt also mentioned, the agenda or the end result of this program, it is basically intended at making you a person who understands all these 3 disciplines and can lead a team of, say, a set of MBAs and a set of engineers who are really good at what they do, and a set of designers.
Great, thank you. Let me just go back to that bachelor's question, having a bachelor's degree. I will say that if you don't have a bachelor's degree, you would have to have done something pretty special. So I just want to qualify that. The likelihood of getting in without a bachelor's degree is very low unless you have done something remarkable and somehow you have demonstrated that you are an expert or a thought leader in a particular kind of topic in the world. So I just want to throw that out there. I don't want you to think that it's, we're going to consider people without bachelor's degrees on the same kind of set of metrics as we would with those that do. It definitely puts you at a disadvantage unless you're absolutely brilliant. Okay, next question for the students. How did you approach your application portfolio?
This was a hard one because I was a business applicant. I've never done a portfolio before. So I just had to kind of think backwards of what are some of the biggest achievements that I've had and try to express them visually. So I did two elements of my portfolio. One was a grant application that I wrote when I was helping start a nonprofit that does criminal justice reform. That we ended up winning some grant funding. So it kind of demonstrated how I was able to articulate the purpose of my organization and try to get funding for it to a foundation. The second part was actually more design oriented. I was on a project where we were doing design research to create a new product. So I actually demonstrated the process that my team went through, and I didn't actually just visualize my own work. I visualized the team of people that I was working with, which included engineers and designers, business analysts, to show how together we were able to come up with some research for a client we were working with. So I think one of them was a Word document, one of them was a PowerPoint. I don't know if they were cohesive, but they demonstrated two kind of recent accomplishments that I had.
Like Chris, I was also from the design background, so as a business background, so I had no idea what a portfolio was in that sense. And so I picked out three things that I thought were interesting achievements in my last job. My last job was a bit more repetitive. It was sales, but then you're dealing with the same people and process all the time. And so what I got most enjoyment in was testing out different ways, like little strategies on how to manage my people and make them more productive, or redesign certain sales competitions so people get excited, or even redesign the way the training was done. So rather than a piece of paper and a bunch of questions, I made them a bit more visual and made it into a mind map instead. So I wrote about that. And it seems like it worked.
So I'm an engineer and I'm an entrepreneur. So I did a bunch of projects or products, as you would say, before coming here. And I just picked out, some 5 to 6 interesting ones that I wanted to talk about. I went from the electronics design part of it to why was the reason, why did I, actually do that? What was the reason? Was it a success? Was it not? Why? Again, and what impact did it generate in the market? So I, with different lengths, with different depths, I spoke about a bunch of these projects, and I think we did a pretty good job at it. That's why we're here.
It's
Awesome.
probably a lot to do with the thought process behind it.
All right. Can you take more classes in business/engineering than the minimum required? I'll just answer that. Yes, you can. After you fulfill the program requirements, you'll have about 30 units left over that you can use for whatever you'd like. The only caveat is that at the end of your tenure here, you should have a balance of engineering and business courses within a 12-unit delta. So that's the only kind of rule or caveat to that. Okay. Next question. Students, can you share about your experience in the courses outside of the IDM core? I'd like to hear this too.
Okay, so I'm well into my second year now here, and I've taken a bunch of courses, from a few in the Sloan School, a few in the engineering school. And one of the great things about IDM is, especially for the engineering school, there are so many departments here, and it gives you the flexibility to take any kind of courses in any of those departments. So there's a bunch, there's a list of approved courses in the engineering thing. And even if I'm an electronics engineer, I'm not limited to those, 10 or 15 graduate level courses in the electronics or, EECS department. In fact, right now, I'm taking one course in the brain and cognitive science, one in the aero astro, and one in the mechanical engineering. And I am so much in love with this place that I'm planning to go for a double master's, and the second master's will be in Mechie.
What?
So it is like, yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird in a good way again, that I'm an electronics engineer and I'll graduate with IDM plus Mechie degree. So that's the logistical aspect of your experience outside of IDM. But the emotional experience that I have had is that I found the best teams and the best people to work with within IDM. Somehow the world outside, it feels awkward now.
I took some classes in the business school, so like something like Global Entrepreneurship Lab, and worked on a project and got sent to Seville, Spain over winter. Now this semester I'm taking a class with NIDI as well in the Aero Astro department. I'm also taking something in the mechanical engineering for the very first time. We're going to build a race car at the end of the semester and race it and manufacture all the parts. Besides the engineering and management courses, I also was an active listener in the theater arts department doing set design, furniture making, Islamic architecture and environment. So the great thing about IDM is that it opens you to the world as well with MIT and all the other academic courses within the institution.
Right now, I am taking a class at Sloan that's cross-listed with the Media Lab called Revolutionary Ventures. And it's basically a series of speakers who are at the cutting edge of kind of a various like scientific discoveries and innovation. And we talk about how you can potentially commercialize innovation and scientific discovery. So it's been an amazing survey for my first semester just to learn about a lot of the work that's happening in various labs within MIT. And at first it was very intimidating because these people are so far in the cutting edge of fields that I've never been exposed to before. But that's also been a really great benefit, especially for my first semester, to kind of get a sense of what's happening within MIT.
Great, thank you guys. All right, let's go to the next question. So I think this is for Nidhi. A follow-up, what was it like to add a second degree for that Mechie dual degree?
Sure. So since my first day at IDM and at MIT, I've been working on my research, which is going to be my thesis for this degree, with a professor who's associated with the mechanical engineering department. So logistically, I satisfied the thesis requirements of IDM and mechanical engineering at the same time. Now, we talk a lot about product design and design in general at IDM, and that drove me a bit closer to product design in general. And mechanical engineering is one department which talks about product design in a variety of ways, from gears and all those things, to IDM kind of design. So that is what really triggered me to think in this direction. The other hidden aspect of this answer is that I love this place, and I would want to be at MIT for longer. So yeah. And yes, one thing that I almost missed is that the research that I'm working on, I am planning to translate that into my next venture. So continuing for another year here, it also gives me some time to build up on my venture.
But was that application process difficult? What was involved in sort of, you started out as just IDM only, then you added Mechie as a dual. How involved was that process?
I think, once you're here and when people know you're from IDM, nothing is difficult on campus.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a matter of negotiating, be it for attending a course which you are initially not allowed for, or a second master's. If you are here and you are good at what you do, and you have people skills which you would have if you are here, you can talk everything out. Yeah.
Great. Okay, let's see, we have just a couple minutes left. I'll answer this one. Are there any scholarship opportunities for students, or actually you guys can too? What are the ways to obtain funds for your study? You guys want to talk? Why don't you talk about that?
Sure. There are traditional R&T opportunities spread across Sloan as well as the engineering school. Then there are a couple of centers. One is the data center, which has a bunch of fellowships available, and the Legatum Center, which again, has a bunch of fellowships available. In my experience, so I am a Tata Fellow. I had funding coming in, but in my experience, all of my batchmates, they were able to figure, TAs or RAs if they wanted to by, say the end of, most of the times by the end of the first semester.
Yeah, I would just add that, it's very difficult to get a TA-ship or an RA position when you're not on campus. So I think that first semester you really kind of have to plan on self-funding, and once you get on campus you can start discussing with the faculty about opportunities that would be a good fit for you, and we can point you in the right direction to talk to the right people or hook you up with the right fellowships like Tata or Legatum. Okay. Okay, so this is the last question. I'd like to hear, I'm going to modify this a little bit. So what are your visions for your future, each of you?
Yeah, my long-term vision, or the vision for my life, is that I want to help people live better. Now, I can do that in a variety of ways. I could join a company that, really resonates with my idea of, achieving my vision, my plans. Or the current plan is to continue building on my venture, which I think is very close to my heart, and it is definitely in the direction of my dreams. Yeah, and I think the journey is itself, you evolve a lot over time. So, but the main intention is to, really dedicate my life as a maximizer for the opportunities around me to help people live better.
For me, it would be to have a meaningful career, and in meaningful meaning, being able to give back in terms of I'm very interested right now in sustainability, to finding that intersection between where we can be sustainable, but at the same time create beautiful things to make, and then that will benefit other people as well. It's a very, very broad. It's very, very broad thing answer, because right now it's still changing and evolving, but the fact that being here in IDM has equipped me to do that makes me feel so much better about the future.
Awesome.
I would say mine's also pretty broad. It was to create products that make people's lives better. When I applied to IDM, I had a very specific vision around wanting to be a software product manager that created some kind of product that had social impact. And I think that's, as soon as I've gotten here, it's gotten a little bit more complicated than that. Seeing all the different things that my colleagues and classmates are doing, and then also learning new skills. So I think the vision is becoming more complicated as I've gotten here as well, and I discover different opportunities and skills that I might learn through this program. So very high level. In the near term, I'm not so sure.
Just to add to what Chris said as well, is one thing that you learn after going through the IDM program is that you can do almost anything that you set your mind to. And even if people say that, well, you don't have the background to do that, well, there are a lot of people who will enable you to do that anyway.
Yeah, that's great. And I think it's also very natural when you come here, you might be somewhat focused, you arrive here and there's this sort of expansion of opportunity, right? It's like, oh my God, I never thought of all these other directions I could take. And then there's a period of time of like just mass confusion, and then as time goes on, it starts coming back together, yes. And you find a place that you feel better about. So, yeah. Okay, well, that concludes our info session. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it. And thank all of you for joining us. And until the next time, we'll see you later.